The Ultimatum. In the farthest reaches of the Orion Arm, the Terran Empire had flourished for centuries, gradually expanding its sphere of influence across the stars. What had begun as a fledgling Earth-based government had grown into an interstellar power, replete with advanced technologies that rivaled those of the galaxy's oldest civilizations. Yet, for all their advancements, the Terrans remained a mystery to the Galactic Council. Isolated in their corner of the galaxy, the Terrans had rarely engaged with the Council's many member species. Some on the Council dismissed them as primitive upstarts, while others viewed their rapid progress with unease. Zorgan Prime Craxus, leader of the Council's most powerful member state, fell decidedly into the latter category. As he stood before the Council's Grand Assembly, his sharp features twisted into a scowl. "The Terrans grow too bold," Craxus declared, his voice echoing through the cavernous hall. "Their ships encroach on our territories, their technologies advance unchecked. We must act now, before they become a threat to our very way of life." Murmurs of assent rippled through the gathered councilors. For all their differences, they could agree that an unchecked Terran Empire represented a challenge to the galactic status quo. "What do you propose, Prime Craxus?" asked Councillor Xyloth, her holographic form flickering as she leaned forward. Craxus smiled thinly. "An ultimatum. The Terrans will submit to Council oversight and control, or face the full might of our combined forces. They must learn their place in this galaxy." The vote was swift and near unanimous. The Council would dispatch an envoy to Terran space, bearing the ultimatum. The Terrans would have one planetary rotation to comply, or suffer the consequences. Light years away in the heart of the Terran Empire, Empress Sienna Velos sat in quiet contemplation as her advisors delivered news of the Council's demands. Her sharp green eyes narrowed as she listened, her lithe form draped in the simple yet regal attire of her office. "They underestimate us," Sienna said softly, her voice filled with quiet conviction. "They think us mere children, playing at Empire. They have no idea what we've become." Admiral Jackson Noros, commander of the Terran Starfleet, nodded in agreement. "Our technologies surpass anything the Council has seen. Our stealth systems, our weapons, all have been developed in secret, hidden from prying eyes." Sienna rose, her gaze sweeping over her advisors. "The Council demands our submission, but they will find only defiance. Ready our forces, Admiral. If the Council wants a fight, we'll give them one they won't soon forget." As the ultimatum deadline approached, Terran ships, cloaked by advanced stealth fields, slipped into position near key Council systems. Advanced AI infiltrated Council networks, ready to sow chaos on command. And on the front lines, Terran soldiers, equipped with powered exoskeletons and devastating energy weapons, prepared for the ground war to come. The Galactic Council had declared its intent, but the Terran Empire would not bow. The stage was set for a confrontation that would shake the very foundations of the galactic order. In the coming clash, the Terrans would prove that their strength lay not just in their technology, but in the indomitable human spirit that had carried them to the stars. The trap is sprung. Deep in Terran space, the assembled might of the Galactic Council's punitive armada hung against the starry backdrop, its ships arranged in precise attack formations. At the heart of the fleet, the flagship Zorgan's Fury stood as a gleaming monument to the Council's power and the Zorgan's place at its apex. On the flagship's bridge, Prime Craxus stood before a vast holographic display, his eyes roaming over the battle space. The Terran Empire's paltry defense fleet was arrayed before them, a motley assortment of smaller ships that seemed to be the best the upstart humans could muster. "Look at them," Craxus sneered, gesturing dismissively at the display. "They bring frigates to face our dreadnoughts. This will be over quickly." Fleet Admiral Zilara, a seasoned Zorgam commander, nodded in agreement, her sharp teeth glinting in a predatory smile. "Shall I give the order to attack, Prime?" Craxus waved a clawed hand. "Proceed, Admiral. Let us teach these primitives the folly of defying the Council." As the Zorgan ships surged forward, their weapon systems locking onto the Terran fleet, something strange began to happen. One by one, the Council ship's systems started to flicker and fail. Sensors went dark, shields sputtered out, and weapon batteries fell silent. Confusion and panic spread through the Council fleet as ship after ship fell prey to the mysterious malfunctions. On the Zorgan's fury, Prime Craxus watched in disbelief as his Grand Armada ground to a halt, dead in space. "What's happening?" he demanded, rounding on his bridge crew. "Get our systems back online now." But it was too late. As if materializing from the varied void of space, dozens of Terran ships shimmered into view, their advanced stealth technology having rendered them invisible to Council sensors. These were no mere frigates, but sleek, powerful warships bristling with advanced weaponry. The Terran ships wasted no time, their weapons slicing through the Council ships' compromised shields with ease. Lances of energy scythed through hulls, while swarms of AI-guided missiles sowed further chaos. In a matter of moments, the once proud Council fleet was reduced to a field of drifting wrecks. On the bridge of the Terran flagship, Red Hawk, Admiral Jackson Noros watched the rout with grim satisfaction. "Their arrogance blinded them," he said softly. "They never suspected that we might have evolved beyond their understanding." Beside him, Captain Lena Tarasova, his second in command, nodded. "Our AIs infiltrated their systems weeks ago, learning their weaknesses. When they attacked, we were ready." As the last of the Council ships fell silent, Admiral Noros turned to his crew. "This is just the beginning. We've shown them our strength, but now we must press our advantage. Set course for the Council's outposts along the border. It's time we took the fight to them." Light years away, in the Grand Council chambers, the assembled councilors stared in mute horror at the holographic display showing the destruction of their armada. Prime Craxus, his face a mask of rage and disbelief, slammed his fist onto the podium. "Impossible," he snarled. "How could the primitives possess such technology?" But even as he spoke, reports began flooding in from across Council space. Terran forces were on the move, striking at key installations with a speed and precision that seemed unthinkable. The full scope of the Terran Empire's hidden strength was becoming clearer by the moment. The trap had been sprung, and the Galactic Council, so assured of its own supremacy, found itself facing an adversary it had gravely underestimated. The war for the galaxy's future had begun, and the Terrans had fired the opening salvos with devastating effect. Terran counterattack. In the wake of the Terran Empire's stunning victory over the Council Armada, the galactic stage was set for a dramatic reversal of fortunes. With the Council's military might shattered, the Terrans wasted no time in pressing their advantage. Across the galaxy, Terran strike forces emerged from stealth, descending upon key Council installations with ruthless efficiency. The Council's once unassailable strongholds, their defenses already compromised by Terran AI infiltrators, fell one by one. On the planet Zorix, seat of the Council's primary shipyards, Terran Marines stormed the surface, their powered exoskeletons rendering them all but immune to the planet's punishing gravity. Led by Captain Nika Sorensen, a veteran of countless engagements, the Marines made short work of the planet's defenders. "Push forward," Sorensen barked, her voice cutting through the din of battle. "We take those shipyards. We cripple their ability to rebuild their fleet." As the Marines advanced, their weapons spitting bolts of superheated plasma, the skies above Zorix came alive with the flashes of orbital battle. Terran warships, their stealth fields dropped, engaged the remnants of the Council's defense fleet, while swarms of AI-controlled drones harried the larger ships, picking off point defenses and sensor arrays. In the heart of the battle, the Zorgan dreadnought Indomitable, one of the few Council ships to survive the initial Terran assault, found itself beset on all sides. Its commander, Admiral Crax, snarled orders to his crew as the ship shuddered under the impact of Terran weapons. "Divert all power to shields," Crax roared. "We will not fall to these upstarts." But even as he spoke, a new threat emerged. The indomitable systems, already strained, suddenly turned against the ship. Weapon batteries swiveled, targeting the dreadnought's own hull, while blast doors slammed shut, trapping crew members in their sections. On the bridge of the Terran flagship, Red Hawk, Admiral Noros watched the Indomitable's plight with a grim smile. "Our AIs have taken control of their ship," he said softly. "The Indomitable is ours now." Across Council space, similar scenes played out as Terran forces, bolstered by their technological edge and the element of surprise, struck at the heart of the Council's power. Shipyards, research facilities, and command centers fell in rapid succession, while Council fleets found themselves outmaneuvered and outgunned at every turn. On the planet Coraxis, the Zorgans' ancestral homeworld, the scale of the disaster was becoming clear. In the Grand Council chambers, heated arguments erupted between the assembled councilors. "We must sue for peace," cried Councilor Xyloth, her holographic form flickering with agitation. "We cannot stand against the Terrans." But Prime Craxus, his face contorted with rage, slammed his fist onto the podium. "Never," he snarled. "We will fight to the last ship, the last soldier. The Council will not bow to these primitives." As the debate raged, a new figure emerged from the shadows. Sienna Velos, Empress of the Terran Empire, strode into the chamber, flanked by a pair of hulking marine bodyguards. A hush fell over the councilors as Sienna approached the central podium, her eyes fixed on Prime Craxus. For a long moment, the two leaders stared at each other in silence, the weight of the moment palpable. "Your empire is crumbling," Sienna said softly, her voice carrying an undercurrent of steel. "Your fleets are in ruins, your strongholds falling. Yet still you cling to your pride." Craxus bared his teeth in a snarl, but Sienna pressed on. "The Terran Empire seeks not conquest, but coexistence. We are willing to forge a new galactic order, one in which all species may thrive. But we will not tolerate threats to our sovereignty." She let her words hang in the air, a challenge and an invitation. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, and the choice lay before the Council. War or peace, destruction or a new beginning. The decision was theirs. The Council divided. In the days following the Terran Empire's stunning offensive, the Galactic Council found itself in a state of chaos. Across Council space, populations seethed with unrest as news of the Zorgans' devastating defeat spread like wildfire. On the streets of a dozen worlds, angry citizens took to the streets, demanding answers from their leaders. Many openly questioned the Council's right to rule, while others called for an end to Zorgan dominance. In the Grand Council chambers, the divisions among the councilors grew increasingly stark. A faction led by Councilor Xyloth advocated for an immediate ceasefire and diplomatic outreach to the Terrans, arguing that further conflict would only lead to more destruction. "We've underestimated the Terrans, and we've paid the price," Xyloth said, her voice heavy with sorrow. "Now we must find a path to peace before it's too late." But Prime Craxus and his hardline allies would hear none of it. To them, the very idea of negotiating with the Terrans was anathema, an admission of weakness that would undermine the Council's authority. "Peace," Craxus snarled, his eyes flashing with barely contained fury. "There can be no peace with these upstarts. They have challenged our very right to rule, and they must be crushed." As the debate raged on, Terran diplomats worked quietly behind the scenes, reaching out to those Council member species who had long chafed under Zorgan rule. Led by Ambassador Eli Corrin, a skilled negotiator with a keen understanding of galactic politics, the Terran delegation sought to forge new alliances. On the planet Velos, homeworld of the reptilian Velosians, Ambassador Corrin met with Prime Minister Xander in a secluded government compound. For years, the Velosians had been a reluctant member of the Council, their once proud civilization reduced to a vassal state of the Zorgans. "The Terran Empire offers a new path," Corrin said, leaning forward in his seat. "A chance for your people to reclaim their destiny, freed from Zorgan oppression." Xander's scales rippled with agitation, but there was a glimmer of hope in his eyes. And what would the Terrans ask in return for this? Liberation. Corin smiled softly. Merely your friendship and a commitment to forging a more just and equitable galactic order. The Terrans seek partners, not subjects. Similar scenes played out across Council space as Terran diplomats met with the leaders of the Krillax, the Saurians, and a dozen other species. Slowly but surely, the foundations of a new alliance began to take shape. Back in the Council chambers, the tide was turning. As reports of unrest and defections poured in, even some of Craxus' staunchest allies began to waver. The prospect of a prolonged war with the Terrans, coupled with the growing discontent among their own populations, was becoming an increasingly unpalatable prospect. In a final, desperate gambit, Craxus took to the podium, his voice booming across the chamber. "I will not stand idly by as our empire crumbles," he roared. "If the Council will not fight, then the Zorgans will stand alone against the Terran threat." But even as he spoke, a new figure entered the chamber, Empress Sienna Velos, flanked by a contingent of Terran soldiers and allied counselors, strode forward, her presence commanding instant silence. "Enough," Sienna said, her voice ringing with quiet authority. "The time for war is over. The Terran Empire extends an offer of peace to all who would join us in building a new galactic order." She turned to face Craxus, her eyes locking with his. "And to those who would cling to the old ways, who would threaten the peace and stability of this galaxy, know this: the Terran Empire will defend its allies and its principles, no matter the cost." The choice was clear. The Council could continue down the path of war and face certain destruction, or it could embrace a new galactic order. In the wake of Empress Sienna's declaration, a tense silence descended over the Council chambers. The assembled counselors, each grappling with the monumental decision before them, exchanged glances of uncertainty and trepidation. For Craxus and his Zorgan hardliners, the choice was galling. To accept the Terran offer would be to admit defeat, to relinquish the dominance they had held for so long. Yet as the Zorgan leader surveyed the faces of his fellow counselors, he saw the truth written in their expressions. The old order was crumbling, and to cling to it would be to invite ruin. With a heavy heart and a snarl of barely contained rage, Craxus stepped forward. "The Zorgan Empire accepts the Terran offer," he ground out, each word a bitter pill. "We will lay down our arms and seek a new path forward." Sienna nodded, her expression solemn. "Your wisdom will be remembered, Prime Craxus. The Terran Empire holds no grudge and seeks only a just and lasting peace." In the days that followed, delegations from the Terran Empire and the Council races met to hammer out the details of a new galactic accord. The Terrans, true to their word, sought not to dominate, but to foster a spirit of cooperation and mutual respect. The tenets of the new galactic order were simple, yet profound. Each species would retain its autonomy, free to govern its own affairs as it saw fit. Disputes would be settled through negotiation and diplomacy, with the Terran Empire serving as an impartial arbiter. And all would work together to face the challenges of a rapidly changing galaxy, from economic upheaval to the ever-present threat of external invasion. For the first time in generations, the galaxy knew true peace. Freed from the yoke of Zorgan oppression, countless worlds began to flourish, their populations thriving in a new era of self-determination and prosperity. The Terran Empire, once dismissed as a primitive upstart, now took its place as a galactic superpower, its technological and military prowess respected and admired by all. But rather than rest on their laurels, the Terrans turned their focus to the stars, to the great unknown that beckoned with the promise of new frontiers to explore and new discoveries to be made. Under Empress Sienna's leadership, the Terran Empire embarked on a grand mission of exploration and scientific advancement. Vast fleets of ships, crewed by the best and brightest of a dozen species, set out into the void, driven by an insatiable curiosity and a thirst for knowledge. They discovered new worlds, made contact with exotic civilizations, and pushed the boundaries of what was possible. And as they did, they brought the light of understanding and cooperation to the farthest reaches of the galaxy. Back on Earth, in the heart of the Terran Empire, Sienna Velos stood before a vast crowd. Her voice carried on the wind to every corner of the planet. "Today, we stand at the dawn of a new era," she declared, her eyes shining with the promise of the future. An era of peace, of discovery, of endless possibility. The road ahead will not be easy, but together, as one galaxy, we will face whatever challenges come our way. The crowd erupted in cheers, a cacophony of voices from 100 different species, all united in their hope for a brighter tomorrow. And as the sound washed over her, Sienna Velos smiled, knowing that the Terran Empire had not just secured its place in the galaxy, but had changed the very course of history. The Galactic Council's ultimatum had backfired in spectacular fashion, and in its place, a new order had risen, one founded on the indomitable spirit and boundless ingenuity of the human race. And as the galaxy looked to the future, it did so with renewed hope, knowing that whatever trials lay ahead, they would face them together as one.